guys, Tez here and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how much it cost me to get my boiler and all the little bits and bobs that went around getting it fixed. So if you're interested in knowing how much boilers cost, then stick around and you'll find out. So there's different kinds of boilers. I think there's like combi boilers, the boilers where you have like a water tank attached to it, and then there's these wooden ones where you actually put firewood to warm up your house. Crazy, I know. So I already had a combi boiler when I bought the house, but then the boiler was really old. So the previous owner bought this house in 2015, I think, and that same boiler was already here. So I felt like that boiler was on its last legs. Now, looking at it, it wasn't cute and I didn't really want to keep it. I know that's a really stupid reason to change something, but at the end of the day, sometimes if it's not cute, then it's not cute. So I didn't actually know that it costs like less than £100 to get your boiler serviced. I just assumed that it was going to be at least 500 because I thought everything to do with boilers is really expensive. So it was only after I'd gotten it fixed that I realised that I could have gotten it serviced, and then maybe the guy would have been like, oh, maybe you need a new boiler, maybe you'll last another summer, another winter or two, but you know, it's done now, so can't exactly be like, give me my old boiler back and I'll just pay to get it serviced, but it's fine. So I got a few companies to come around and give me quotes, and I think I got 2,800, 3,300, and that price went up if I wanted a Google Nest. So I wanted a Google compatible device because I do have a few of those around, so it's just very handy to ask for the heating to be turned on, for the heating to be turned off, for the heating to be turned down. Because do you know when you wake up at like 5 AM and it's cold but you don't want to lose your sleep, and if you have to look on your phone to then turn the heating up, the brightness from the phone will like make you lose your sleep? Well, now I can just say, okay, GOOGLE, please turn the heating up to, let's say, 24 degrees, and it does that. So that was really important for me. So then I started looking online and I found this company online and they were charging me £1,000 cheaper, and I looked at the reviews and they seemed really good, and I think it's mostly because they don't have a base. So places like British Gas and Eon have like a base where they have offices and people go there, so they have to pay for that space. Whereas because this company is purely online and they outsource their work to local gas or plumbers or whatever they're called, it's a lot cheaper for them, which is why they quoted me, I think, £2,242. So I was like, sign me up, I'm finna get me a new boiler. So when I found that quote, I initially saved it because I was like, well, if I can find this, if I can find something cheaper. And I think after like 4 or 5 days, they emailed me saying, oh, here's an extra £50 off that boiler if you book with us, blah blah blah. I was like, you know what, you sold me. And can I just add also that that boiler already included the Google thermostat and the Google Nest thing, so I could control everything, which was my #1 priority. So I ended up going with them, and that ended up being 2,192 or something like that. So after you get the boiler installed, they then send you a referral code. So if you get someone else to get their boiler installed by the same company, then you get a £50 voucher, which you can use for places like Amazon, Morrison's, Miller & Carter, like lots of major retailers. So I got my friend to get it done, and that meant I got a £50 off, which meant I ended up paying 2,142. And then I got my other friend, so that's 2 people who I also got to get the boiler with that company. So I got another £50 voucher, which means I ended up paying 2,190. No, wow, and I'm a pharmacist, can't do maths. So I ended up paying £2,092, which I think is pretty good for a new boiler. I think my friend who got hers done, hers was a bit more expensive because A, she was moving the boiler, and she previously had a water tank, but she was getting a combi boiler like me. So I do think, because mine was pretty straightforward, boiler was going in the same place, my gas meter is literally on the other side of the boiler, on the outside, so there wasn't a lot of pipe work involved, so I think that's why it was probably a bit cheaper. In terms of the actual installation, they came here at like 8 AM and they left around 3, so they were pretty much here all day. And they ended up buying me lunch. So they gave me a KFC, which I guess if you take into account, that means I actually only paid £2,085 for the boiler, because I got a free lunch, which is money I would have had to spend to buy myself KFC. And the reason they bought me the food, basically, it's a bit weird. So they got here at 8, and then it was 2 guys, and then one of them was like, oh, we need to turn the water off, so can you fill up the kettle for when we're ready for tea? I was like, okay, fine. So I filled it up, and then I was like, well, the kettle's there, mugs are there, milk is in there, tea's in there. I didn't really want to be in the kitchen with them because it's 2 men and I am clearly not. I mean, I know you can't tell, but trust me, I'm not. So I didn't want to be in the kitchen with them. And then they have to go around the whole house turning off the radiators or whatever. So when one of them came into the room I was in, he started talking to me. And he was asking me if I liked the area, what I thought about it, how long I'd lived here, yada yada yada. Oh, and then I was like being friendly because it's like a man in my house. I was like, okay, fine. And then like half an hour later, he was like, excuse me, love. I was like, yeah, what's up? He's like, fancy making us a cup of tea? I was like, well, I've told you where the cups are, where the tea bags are, and where the milk is. What more do you want? I was like, okay, fine. So I went in there and made him a cup of tea, and it's like, oh, I don't like mine too strong, just with a dash of milk though, so don't leave the tea bag in. Fine. I was like, alright, like, not only asking me to make a cup of tea, you're telling me how to make it. Like, trust me, I make cups of tea that are really, really good. I don't need your input. But I was like, it's his tea, it's fine, it's whatever. So I made him the cup of tea, and then afterwards he was like, you got any biscuits to go with that? So yeah, I've got some biscuits, gave him some biscuits, and then he was like, oh, have you heard of Facebook dating? I was like, no, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's like dating but through Facebook. I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's like, yeah, my ex, we broke up, wasn't going really well, and now I'm on there looking for someone else. I want somebody who's got their lives together, you know, who's got their own house, who works, who's not crazy. I was like, oh, I'm sure you'll find someone. He's like, oh, are you on any dating apps? So I was like, no, I'm not. They're not really for me. I feel like the type of guy I'm after, I don't think you can find them on the app. I was like, well, you never know, you should give it a go. Have you heard of any that you recommend? And I said, well, I heard that Hinge is quite good. And he's like, oh, is that what you're on then? I was like, no, I'm not on any. He's like, oh, alright, well, that's a shame, isn't it? Are you with anybody? And then I just laughed because I was like, why are you asking me this? This is really inappropriate. So then his colleague called him over, and then I just left the room. So then I decided to cut the grass in the front garden, just so I was as far away from the kitchen as possible. And then at like 1 o'clock, they were like, oh, we're gonna get some lunch. We'll be back in a bit, just like lock up or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. He's like, oh, what's good around here? I was like, well, there's a KFC there and there's a fish and chip shop there. And they were like, oh, what do you usually get from KFC when you go? So I am a flexitarian, so I don't eat meat at home, so I won't cook it or anything. But if I go outside and I fancy it, I will buy it, because I do think sometimes it's a waste of money paying a lot for a meal outside if you're not even getting any meat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to pay £20 for some rabbit food. So yeah, so I told him my order, and then I just thought he was just asking, and then they brought me back KFC. So I was like, oh, thanks. I mean, I ate it. And then in hindsight, my friend was like, what if they drugged it and then, you know? I was like, oh, I'm sure it'll be great. And then the whole time, like, the guy was flirting with me, and I just wanted to be like, shut up, you ugly.
I have a question for you.
Shut up, you ugly.
Oh, no.
But I couldn't, so. And it's really awkward because I live in the house, well, I used to live in the house by myself, and when men come over to do work, it's always really awkward because you almost sort of have to say, oh yeah, I live with someone, but they just don't work at the moment, which is why I'm here, because you don't, not that you don't feel safe, but you just never know what could happen. But yeah, anyways, it was fine. When they left, he left me his number, and he said if I ever wanted to go for a drink or something, then I should holler at him. And I was just thinking, sorry Mario, you are not getting this, princess. If you know, then you know. But yeah, anyway, that is how I ended up saving another £7 off my boiler, I guess. I'm really happy with it. I'm happy that I can control the heating with my voice or with my phone, and I don't always have to go find the thermostat, and it's really helpful, especially with this England that we live in getting a little bit colder. But anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or any video suggestions. Don't forget to tap that like button so the video reaches more people. Subscribe if you haven't already because it really helps me out. And until next time, bye for now.